Good morning. Today's the day we're going to be reviewing the See You Tomorrow collection by Madeline White. Madeline is a famous fashion influencer and she created this line of pajamas. So I ordered one of everything except for the hair accessories. It did cost me almost $1,000 for this package. And I did order on December 29th and I only got it on January 29th. So the shipping time wasn't the best. They did send me an email on January 8th, so about 10 days later, that there was a shipping delay because of the Canada Post strikes. But the strike ended before I ordered, so I don't really buy it. But I do want to give them some grace because they are a new small business. And I'm currently wearing my favorite pajamas. These are from a brand called Eptom, and I will be comparing the two because they're both small businesses and they are similar price points. So let's open the package and let's get into it. And if you're new here, my name is Jen. I make fashion reviews and beauty content here on YouTube. And I also post my outfits on Instagram, and I also make more short form content for TikTok, so make sure you check those out. Starting with the bag, of course the branding is very prominent. I have seen that this bag contains polymer, so that is more readily biodegradable. So that's a nice touch. All right, now let's open it. Okay, each item comes in these individual plastic packages. Okay. Now just commentary about the choice of packaging. And I'm speaking about this as someone who is building their own fashion line. So essentially you have two options, right? You either have a soft bag like this. It can be made from various different materials, or you can put your items in a box. Boxes are more expensive. They'll probably run you maybe up to $1, maybe more, depending on the quantities you order, depending on the quality of the box. These bags are definitely less than $1. So these are the more cost-effective way to mail things. You wouldn't see paper bags really because you do want it to be protected in case it rains or snows. So I would say right off the bat, she picked a more cost-efficient way to mail her items out. Looking at these plastic bags, I think these are just regular plastic mailers. They're secured with a tape. Surprisingly, the items did not get too scrunched, because I did expect that since the bag is really soft, the items might come a bit wrinkled, but so far it looks pretty good. The items kind of stayed intact. Although maybe because there's a lot of items in this order that it didn't really have room to move around, but so far so good. So her collection did sell out pretty quick, so I wasn't able to get my size on all of the items. So I ordered 3 different sizes, and I found it kind of strange because I got an email from the company asking me if I had trouble finding my sizing and offering to help. But sometimes people order for other people in the same order, so they would get different sizes. So I thought that was a little strange, although the intention was good. All right, let's start with the shorts. This is called the Rosey Baby Short, and it is a 100% cotton fabric. But you can see here it's very, very sheer, and it has a printed flower pattern on it. Looking at the straps, ideally these would be even and straight all the way through, but you can see some parts are thicker than others. And the stitching they did down the strap is not equal distance from the edge, and it has a tie at the end. For $57, I would expect a bit more detail like an aglet, but these are pajamas and I guess the intention is to keep them soft all the way through. Yeah, same on the strap, uneven, not the same width, and a bit curly. Really big stitches for the fabric as well. For a fabric of this thinness, I would expect a smaller stitch. In the middle here, you can see lots and lots of messy stitching. This is where they finished the garment and they went over it a few times. And that overlapping stitch is what makes it look really messy. Don't mind my cat, she's just scratching her board over there. And it almost looks like this stitching is starting to come apart. So to avoid this messy looking stitching, you would just change the stitching width to smaller, and then you can just finish off the garment that way instead of going over it back and forth. This is a lettuce hem here, so looks okay. Equal distance, equal width from the elastic. On the inside, there's the care label, the branding. Fiber content does match what is stated on the website. Here, ideally, these will be matched up right there. And ideally, this pattern on the fabric will be matched to the other side. So on the inside, we see all the edges are properly serged. No loose ends, no loose threads that I could see. Again, some messy stitching here. But so far, I'm not that impressed for $57. These remind me a lot of Brandy Melville or maybe H&M. Let's move on to the Rosey Baby Tee. So it comes pre-tied for you. I just have to undo the tie here. And then it'll expand like that, okay? So similar to these shorts, it's probably 100% cotton. Yep, you see that here. Now, the front of the garment is very important and it should look proper and neat. But when I first saw this, immediately I noticed right here, not straight. This is a big, huge red flag. This would never, ever be approved if you were looking into the details. So, not looking great, and these will run you $60. Looking at this is the channel that houses these straps here. And you can argue that it doesn't need to be the straightest because it will eventually be scrunched up like this. However, ideally it should be nice and straight. I'm stretching it out here. Oh yes, this is the same fabric as the shorts, so super, super sheer. And in one of Madeline's response videos, she said that sheerness is subjective. I do not think that is the case. It's either you can see through it or you cannot. And I think it's pretty clear that this fabric is sheer. Okay, moving on to the inside here. So this looks pretty good. Equal distance, smaller stitches than the shorts. Yep, looking good so far, except for this piece here. I hope it's just this one and not all of them, but that will bother me to no end. On the sleeves is also a lettuce hem. Okay, looks pretty good. On the inside here, all the edges are serged, no loose threads, looking pretty good. On the bottom here, lettuce hem as well. On the inside, nicely serged, no red flags there. These drawstrings might be the same that they used for the shorts. It's made of the same fabric. You can see they're not straight. This one is narrow in the middle here for some reason. This might be due to the fact that they tied the garment and it just constricted it right there. But you can still see it's not very straight. I think maybe if they iron these, it would look better. But yeah, you can see that this edge, that's supposed to be lined up so that you can't see one edge over the other like that, but you can clearly see the edge behind. No, not good. And looking at the two pieces that they join across the bust, ideally the pattern would line up. This is so close, but it doesn't line up. It does line up here though, which is a little bit strange. Perhaps when they stretched the fabric, the tension was off and therefore the fabric doesn't match. On the other side, you can see this almost lines up, this lines up less. I feel like if they applied proper tension all the way through, these would in fact line up. Okay, moving on, this is the Dreamy Cami top. For something that have permanent embellishments like these bows, it would be great if they weren't crushed. I feel like you could maybe solve this by trying to iron them, but the bow doesn't look that neatly tied. You can't really tell, I feel like, on camera. And this is the other one. I feel like this one looks a bit better because the underside of this sticks out so much. But I also feel like the bows should be the same size, and I feel like this one on the right, you can see I'm trying to line them up, but this one's a bit smaller than this one, so that's not great. Now moving on to the cups. This I think is a viscose fabric, I can tell, but let's just double check anyway. Okay, rayon. Okay, so that's a semi-synthetic made from bamboo pulp, or it could be from beechwood. Viscose fabrics, I think, are misunderstood because I think they're being pushed as a sustainable alternative, but the process to create them does create a lot of chemical waste unless you're using a closed-looped semi-synthetic fabric, which it does not specify if this is or not. That being said, the fabric generally is soft and breathable, and of course the final product is biodegradable. Now looking here, The stitching, again, pretty large for the thinness of this fabric, and you can see it's not equal distance from the edge. This is much closer to the edge here, and this one is much further away, so that's not ideal. Now let's check the other side. I feel like this one looks a bit better than the right side. Although this does, I feel like this stitching can be closer to the edge. Okay, so there's that. This trim, this is a velvet fabric. It does say that it is rayon, but I highly doubt that this trim is rayon. I feel like only the body fabric, and this trim I don't think is rayon either, so I feel like they should have specified on the tag. Doesn't seem like they did. Maybe they did specify on the website. I'm gonna have to check later. Okay, some fibers from production that were stuck on the shirt, I guess. This is not a lettuce hem, but it does appear to be wavy on some parts. This could be attributed to, you know, when it was being shipped. Maybe it got crushed a little bit, so not a big deal there. But the trim looks pretty good for the most part. Okay. This lace edge, ideally that extra fabric would have been trimmed right here so that it doesn't stick out. The fabric on this, again, pretty sheer. You can see my hand right through it. So this is not something I would pick to wear because I prefer my clothes to be opaque. Ideally, these two seams will line up, but not a big deal. Okay. The back edge has an elastic, but this is quite messy looking right there. Yep, same on the other side, pretty messy attachment of the strap. This strap does have a adjustable piece on here. I'm not sure the technical name of this, but it is not stretchy whatsoever, quite stiff. Ideally, it would be stretchy so that it's a bit more comfortable. On the inside, we have a serge finish edge. There is a black mark here. I'm not sure from what. Oh, kitties are fighting. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore them. Okay, more black fibers that should have been removed. So this top will run you, I believe, $77. Honestly, I'm not impressed. I feel like for maybe $10, $20 more, you can probably get something like this in a silk. But yeah, that's that one. Now let's move on to the matching shorts. These are the Dreamy short, I believe it's called, and these will run you $71. This bow, again, looking a little crushed and a little bit sad. This one, I don't think it's meant to be a lettuce trim. I think just because it has an elastic waistband that it kind of appears that way. Okay, let's move on to the inside here. Yep, attached elastic with the zigzag stitch. This one, I feel it looks better than the cami. Okay, same fabric, should be rayon. Looking pretty good on the inside. The design of this I don't love because this kind of flares out. It makes your waist look bigger, but again, these are pajamas, so it doesn't matter too much. This actually looks pretty good. The bottom edge here is a ruffle trim. Some extra thread popping out here. Some more extra thread. Okay. Okay, lots of extra threads poking through, but for the most part, the stitching is equal distance from the edge. Yep. I would prefer for the stitches to be smaller, but that's fine. Oh, yep, there it is. The crotch on this one does line up, so looking quite good. On the inside, we see the edge is finished. That's good. This bit of extra thread there, but that's fine. These are probably the neatest item we have seen so far. But I don't know if I would pay $71 for these. This is called the Forever Romper, and this will run you $116. So right off the bat, I feel like the lace is not the same on both sides. It ends in a point on the right, and this is more of a rounded point on the left. These straps look not bad, and these actually have some stretch to them. Okay, looking pretty good so far. These look nice and even. Equal distance, no skip stitches, adjustable, we like that. This is a little bit difficult to pull, but that's okay. Let's see, these are made from also rayon. Okay. Again, the bow, yeah, not the greatest. There are some extra fibers, lace edge on the bottom of the shorts here. Looks pretty good, stretchy. Now this is a fabric that I would expect to pill over time, just because of the hand feel. I don't know if you can see, but there are already some texture issues coming up. I am going to just rub them together to see if it pills. Let's do about 30 seconds. Okay, that was about 20 seconds. Yeah, it does feel bumpy, the fabric. So I would expect this to pill after a couple washes. I will be keeping these and not returning them since I did that to them. And I'm gonna bring them over to Joe's office to see if he wants to cut them up. Ooh, this is not looking good right here. See that? That channel for the elastic, it really should be straight all the way across. We see that it goes up and down. Yep, if I stretch it out more, you can still see that. Not great. Right there too. There. And it goes in, and then, yeah, this is not looking good. Ooh, yikes. Okay, let's turn them inside out. Okay, so that is not the neatest, but that's okay. At the crotch, this one is lined up, which is nice. Oh, that's my cat hair. Oh, that's looking pretty messy in here, but again, on the inside, not the end of the world. This is the infamous silk chemise. I'm gonna call this the silk slip. And she swore up and down that this is not sheer. Okay, let's see. You guys, that's sheer. That's absolutely sheer. So ideally, if she was gonna make this with a nude mesh, she will also include options for darker skin people, like a brown or even a darker brown, or maybe a light pink. This doesn't feel inclusive to me, and even if her sizing is inclusive, she's not being inclusive for skin tones. Now, looking at this tag, so there was a lot of discourse online because some people got a silk chemise that was labeled viscose, and this one is indeed labeled silk. And Mallory, who is a creator who made some reviews about this brand already, she did in fact get one that was labeled viscose, and then Madeline suggested that she burn the fabric to see if it was truly silk, and she did end up burning it and determined ultimately that it is silk. That response from Madeline, not the greatest, because you know she spent money on your product and you're asking her to burn it, but at the end of the day we found out the truth, and this is in fact silk. That being said, I am not for sure confident that this mesh part is silk. This doesn't feel like silk to me, or if this lace was silk. I feel like these might be poly, but of course I have no way to determine that unless I burn it, which I'm not going to do. Okay, now looking at this, the front of the chemise, this looks pretty nice and even. It looks symmetrical on both sides. The trim here looks pretty even, straight on this side as well. Looking pretty good. Okay. This piece, okay, looks like equal distance. Large triangle shape, okay. And down here, still seems like it's pretty symmetrical and equal distance. This I think could have been finished more neatly. It looks like it's almost finished on a slant. The sewing across the edge here, you see how it's further from the edge and then goes inwards and then outwards, inwards. For something that's over $200, this is $219, I would expect this to be even all the way down. On this edge, they kept the stitching closer to the edge, really nice and tight. Straps here appear to be the same fabric, really small, delicate straps, but they did a pretty good job at keeping these nice and even. They have a bit of stretch and they're equal width. And it does seem like the stitching is the same distance from the edge, so looking pretty good. Ideally, this extra lace would be trimmed off. And I think there was an attempt to line up the lace shape on the edge here where they finished the garment, so that's nice. On the other side as well, so that's a nice detail. And I doubt that this lace trim is silk, so I feel like they should have disclosed what this is made out of. Otherwise, the construction on this, not too bad at all. So what do you think? Would you pay $200 for this silk chemise? Let me know. And lastly, this is the Dottie pajama set. This comes in a set. You can't buy the pieces separately, and this will cost you $130. I don't love that because sometimes people are different size on the top than they are on the bottom. So ideally, I would have sold these separately. But let's take a look. So these are made from viscose and spandex, so it's a stretchy fabric. You see it has pretty nice stretch. Now looking at the collar here, the trim is not the same width all the way across. You can see it's narrow here, wider. Yeah, you can see that on the outside as well. Narrow, wide, not ideal. On the back here, yep, that stitching looks wonky. Narrow to the edge, further away, further away. Yeah, not great. Not great at all. This here, there seems to be some puckering going on. Not sure why. I thought it might have been because they attached a tag there, but they didn't. So that seems odd. Okay, moving on. Yeah, down the edge here. Yep, stitch trim is thick here. The stitch is close to the edge and it comes further out, and the trim gets thinner. So yeah, all the way, it seems like all the way across this garment, the trim is not the same width. This buttonhole looks all right. It's not the best, not the worst. Oh, some more extra fibers. These buttons are not reinforced, but I wouldn't expect them to be on a delicate garment like this. And when I say reinforced, I mean that there's extra thread wrapped around the base. But yeah, again, I only expect that on blazers or coats or more heavy-duty garments. Now looking on the inside, so there was a bit of discourse about how some of the edges on the inside are not finished. You can see here that all the edges that you can see so far are finished, but when you flip this edge over, we see that all this is not finished. Oh, it's finished up to here. It's got some loose threads. Oh. And this piece sticking out, which I'm not sure what is happening. This might be the fabric they use for the trim, I suppose. Okay, yeah, I see that. Trim goes inside here. They just left it untrimmed. Ideally, that would just be cut off. And ideally, this would be finished. And ideally, this would be trimmed off as well. We'll go look on the other side. So yeah, this edge, the trim here is trimmed. But again, the edges are not finished and it's left raw. Thankfully, this fabric doesn't seem to easily fray, so that's good, but yeah, not ideal for sure. This here, not even, not straight. You can see that, the uneven stitching. And Madeline's response to the uneven stitching was that these clothes are made by human hands. Well, all clothes are made by human hands, so that's not really an excuse. Yeah, lots of uneven stitching all the way through the garment. I would expect this to pill over time, although it does feel very soft. On the sleeve here, inside's trimmed, the inside is finished. And looking at the sewing, this trim does appear to be more equidistant than the trim on the collar and down the front. So that is a good sign. Now comparing the two tops. So that is See You Tomorrow, of course. This is Eptom. See how that trim is the same width all the way across. Even down the curve, which is hard to do. See You Tomorrow, we see that this trim kind of folds over here. This trim is thinner here and then thicker here. A bit thinner here, thicker here. Now moving on to the pants. So these have a drawstring and an elastic waistband. Yeah, right away you can see that the stitching all the way across is not straight. And some bumpy stitching there. That is quite messy, and you will see that right away when you're looking at the composition and care label. This is also viscose spandex, so not ideal. That kind of looks like it's going over a cliff and then it just continues like that. That would not be acceptable by my standards. Yeah, that's not looking too great, the bottom edge here. This one has trim near the pant leg. The trim does appear to be the same width, however, oh, I spoke too soon. That is narrow there and that is thicker there. That is just going up and down. Not ideal. Let's check the other one. It looks like this trim doesn't even go across evenly. It goes down and then up. Let's look at the inside here. It is nicely finished. That's good there. And for all the bottoms, I like to check that this is lined up nicely, and it is. The only one that wasn't was the Rosey shorts, I believe they're called. And I'll also just note that these pants don't have any pockets. So yeah, just nothing there. You see how that this kind of collapses the elastic? If they added a bigger piece of elastic, this wouldn't be happening. So for example, these are my pajama bottoms from Eptom. You see how it lies flat all the way across. There's no waving or puckering of the elastic because they used the proper length of elastic for the channel that they made. And then of course the straps on the Eptom pajamas, these are nice and straight all the way across. And these are sewed closed, which looks a bit neater than a tied closed. Let's see. Okay. And then looking at the bottom of these, you see that edge. That sewing is nice and even all the way across. Right? The trim is also equal width. That's how these are supposed to look like. And these, add a bonus, these have pockets. You see how the sewing equal distance all the way down. And in terms of fit, even though these are 3 different sizes, they all seem to fit me. I think out of all of these items, the one that is the most well made is the Silk Chemise. And it happens to be the most expensive one. In terms of the other items, these are all about $70 each. I think you can get better quality for less, so I would not necessarily recommend them. That being said, of course, there is an upcharge for supporting Madeline herself. And if it were up to me, I would probably not keep any of these for my personal use. So Let me know what you think about this collection. What did you like about it? What did you not like? Would you go and buy these? Do you know anywhere that sells similar things for less? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.